go?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, let's call the meeting to order. Salute flag, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thought the army band was coming in there.
All right, there we go.
Okay, good evening, everybody. This is the Town of Westport Infrastructure Oversight Committee, October 5th, 2002. We're going to switch the agenda around a little bit so we can get Mike and Paul rolling. First, we're going to, Bob, why don't you introduce the new town planner so everybody knows who he is?
This is Michael Burris, and he's our new town planner. He's a graduate of the Ohio State University,
There you go.
and both holding an undergraduate degree and a master's degree in city and regional planning. And he's a certified, he holds an AICP certification. He comes to us from the regional planning, Franklin County, which is the regional county of the state capital, Columbus. And we've already put him to work. He's looking at crafting census data to see if we can move our stuff up in the eligibility of getting money.
Wow.
Nice.
Welcome aboard.
How do you spell Burris for my notes?
B-U-R-R-E-S-S, correct?
B-U-R-R-I-S.
I-S-S. I was close.
B-U-R-I-S?
S.
B-U-R-R-I-S.
One S.
One S.
One
Yeah.
S. Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Straighten that out. All right, we're going to switch the agenda around just a little bit. We're going to go right to Mike and Paul. They got a busy schedule. We'll get them right to it. You want to come up separately or together, Mike?
Together.
All right.
We've got
Good.
good.
Yeah.
Not sure about this one.
All right, and if everybody probably knows them by now because they're all over town, but it's Senator Mike Rodrigues and Representative Paul Schmidt. All right, so Bob was there too. We had a meeting last week. You folks had a meeting last week regarding the infrastructure, and we had some big wigs from Boston and whatnot, or at least their representatives. So if you just want to update us on what's going on and any kind of status with Route 6, appreciate it.
I'll start. I'll jump in. Well, thank you very much for inviting us to be here tonight. Where do I start on Route 6? I could spend all night. I mean, born and brought up and lived my whole life on and around Route 6. You know, we have a business that's relocated from Fall River to Route 6 in Westport in 1973. We've been there since 1973. I know just about every business and employer on the entire Route 6 corridor. And water and sewer has been something we've been talking about for decades. There's been many fits and starts over the years. I'm ready, willing, and able to help the community in any way possible to get it done, finally. In my mind, I think the first thing we need to do is get the project designed, engineered, and permitted, get it almost shovel ready as quickly as possible. To that end, Rep. Schmidt and I, in the so-called ARPA bill that the legislature passed last November, secured $1 million, pretty much with no strings attached for the town of Westport, in order for the town to utilize that money. However, they think it would be best to get the project designed, permitted, and engineered as quickly as possible. There is lots of federal money coming down the pike through the federal infrastructure bill. Lots of money specifically targeting water and sewer, but they generally just call it water infrastructure. I think Westport targets a lot, there's lots of boxes that the Westport Route 6 project will check. First of all, as you know, everything we do now in government is look through the lens of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the fact that the social economic demographics of the Route 6 corridor is much lower income than the rest of the community. We also are very concerned, of course, about environmental mitigation, and we know the Bread and Cheese Brook and all the other tributaries around and about. Route 6 feed the Nokochoke River, feed the Westport River, and affect the quality of the Westport River. We also know public health. The fact that so many residents just off Route 6, the Bros, the Berrimans, I can go on and on, the Greenwoods, the Arlingtons, all those streets are on very small lots with private wells and private septic systems that are pretty much abutting each other, and you have to really question on what the quality of that water is now, that drink water. We, Rep. Schmidt and I, we'll do whatever it takes. In my world of budgeting, now that I chair the Ways and Means Committee, there's two budgets. There's operating budgets and there's capital budgets. Operating budgets is where we appropriate cash, in this case, out of opera, $1 million for Westport, to prepare to access capital money, which is generally bonded. You hear about environmental bonds, transportation bonds, higher ed bonds. We bond. We borrow the money for long-term projects. So the capital component of this water and sewer project will be bonded. The state has the state revolving fund, the SRF fund, that's been in place forever. That's how it assists communities in access to capital. Every community around us that has water and sewer, that's how they funded it, through the SRF fund. And then, I'm rambling on and on because I've been living this for my whole life. Then the bottom line is, who pays for it, right? And in my mind, not one entity is not going to pay for the whole thing. There are 4 paying entities. There's the private property owners, there's the state, there's the feds, and there's the town. And it's going to be some combination thereof of those 4 entities, whatever that is, whatever the formula works, to make it affordable for the private property owners, to make it affordable for the town, for the state, and the feds. They have their own formulas of what they use. So that's where we've been, and we've been working on. I spend a lot of time talking with Jim about this. Even I think when you were on the planning, when you were the planner, right? In years, and I know there are some businesses here on Route 6. We tried to kickstart this probably 20 years ago, where we collected privately money to hire Metcalf and Eddy to do a conceptual plan. I think it cost about $35,000 at the time. That laid out a conceptual plan. And at that time, it was $1.5 million, don't quote me on the pennies, but about $1.5 million to do the final engineering and design plans for the Route 6 corridor. We did not, the town decided not to do that. It was not successful at town meeting. Then that was the last big infusion of federal dollars. Those were under President Obama, the so-called ARRA funds. Now we're called the infrastructure funds. So that's what I have to say. I'll stop rambling. Like I said, I could ramble all night about this because it's
We appreciate it.
And as you, Steve, you've lived there your whole life too.
And from working with you, I know you've both been trying to get business and veterans housing, in town, and it's frustrating because we don't have the infrastructure to help out those people.
Those are 2 more boxes that
Right.
this does check. The economic development box,
Right.
the opportunity to upgrade some of the business activity that goes on there,
Absolutely.
and then the opportunity to build some housing. We need starter homes. We need affordable housing. We need senior housing, veterans housing. And building that is a challenge when you've got to put a septic system and drill for water.
Writing that all down, Michael? The other one. Okay.
So, Michael, if I could ask you a question, put you on the spot for a minute. If Phase 1A of the design, which goes from basically Fall River to 88, is projected to cost to build $7.5 million, how do you envision we put that package of 7.5 together?
I would see you know, there are different ways to put it together. Does the town can pay for what it thinks its share should be, and the rest would be applied to betterments. I don't think there's a lot of big property owners along that stretch, so the betterments might be high because there are few property owners to spread the betterments throughout, as opposed, see, from Fall River east to 88, that's not where the real I mean, it's a problem, it's definitely, but it's really east of 88 to the Dartmouth line is where it's the highly congested residential dwellings, where highly congested properties right along Route 6.
Yeah.
So I wonder if you call that Phase 1A, if it's worth just doing that, or if you should just do the whole thing where you have more, because you're going to have a nut to pay. And we'll work with the federal delegation to see what their share will be and how much we can access through them. But whatever that nut is, the more pockets you spread that across, the lower per pocket expense it would be.
Yeah. Well, the way the planning board is structured so far is that there is 1A and 1C. There's no 1B for some reason. 1A is sewer and 1C is water and sewer. And as I understand it, Bob, envisioning 3 contracts, right? 2 sewers and a water.
The way it is, well, the way it could be set up is that there are 3 logical breaks.
Right.
And the first one, and the total thing is 28.5 million, and round numbers, you got 7.5 and maybe a $13 million bite, and then a $6 or $7 million bite, in that kind of range. So, so the 3 contracts that would be logical, and when I say they're logical, they would end at pumping stations. They would all work on their own, and you have to start at the Fall River end,
right?
Because that's where the connection is. So you have to do the first phase in that sequence, and then the next phase. Each phase runs from the west towards the east.
Right.
So you could do the first phase, and just as the senator said, there aren't many users there, and the biggest user is already connected to the sewer, so there's some issues of working around that. Do we reconnect them into our system? And we're working on those issues. So then the next phase would take you to Bread and Cheese Brook, in which we could intercept now and put a pumping station there, and then intercept just from where Washington Street going into Washington Park.
Yep.
So if we took from Washington Street, that would connect the real number of all of the small streets that you were talking about, Mike. All of those could then come into the sewer system. And when we did that, we would extend the water. The reason
there's still a lot of streets east of
already there.
There's still a lot of streets east of there.
And then the third bite takes us all the way to all the way down to the Dartmouth line.
Steve, to answer Maury's question, I wonder if we don't need a engineering / finance consultant who could and who could sit down and count the number of properties that are adjacent, could tell us what a typical fee might be, who could perhaps help us think about what increase in tax revenue might be able to get, who could tell us how much we might get bonding for, how much the town might be bonded for. And then maybe the difference is the Fed that's needed. There must be people who know how to slice this for us. Otherwise, I wouldn't know what the heck to say.
I envisioned a hunk of that $1 million going to pay for a professional to help the town navigate all this. And you're not you're not inventing anything new. I mean, we're way behind the curve here. You know, Dartmouth just did a major expansion, right? You know, so who's the brain trust over there? I mean, how did they do it? How did they split the tap? You know, to divvy up the betterments, or did they eat it all, or you know? So I
don't want to have to take a jail like them, no.
No.
That's how they got their water originally, but yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Well, there's also, you know, in the economic development box, there's something called PWED, Public Works Economic Development Grants. You hear that term often, PWED grants, and we've gotten, for communities around here, some pretty significant PWED grants. The matrix there is that's economic development. And it's definitely going to change now as we have a new administration and a new governor coming in. But under Governor Baker and Secretary Keneally, who's the Secretary of Economic Development, it was very data driven. It was jobs. How many jobs? What's the average wage of the job? What's going to be the state income tax based? You know, if it's $100,000 a year, average wage of this particular job, 5% income tax, what the return. He very much, that was the hallmark of that was how Governor Baker's team worked. It was very data driven. But those are other opportunities. Rep. Schmidt mentioned housing. Housing is a major crisis throughout the state, not just here in southeastern Mass. And the ability to create high density housing along a major transportation node is something that is going to get, you know, the community a lot of points when it comes to grant funding and stuff, you know.
Well, we're going to have a choice with the build out. Jim and I were just learning more about it the other day. We don't think we have to build out as much as initially they thought, almost 500 units.
Yeah.
But now they're thinking maybe 250 for us because we're within the circle of Florida.
Right, right.
So obviously we wouldn't want that on all wells and septic, so 40 Bs.
You couldn't do it on wells and septic, yeah.
Well, the way they figured it out with Briggs and stuff, they have water there, but it's the sewer.
Right.
So, were you saying something? All right. You have anything to add? You good?
No.
Paul? I'm sorry.
No, I stand by the ready, so whatever you need.
No, we absolutely appreciate it, and
There's going to be another bite of the ARPA apple from us next year.
Okay.
That's good stuff.
No promises, but we're going to have another bite at that apple.
Just call us again when the money's there.
I'm not afraid to call Jim to say, we got this, you know, as each, you know, if it's a transportation bond bill, if it's a, whatever it is, I'm not afraid to pick up the phone. Jim, what's your priority?
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. You've done the same thing to me, and Paul has too. That's how we get this funding and the high school.
With that said, since we have that money opportunity next year, shouldn't we approach this with a two-phase in mind already, instead of going phase 1 and then phase 2? Approach with a two-phase already in
Well, the
mind.
design's getting close, right? The first one's advanced.
The design will be ready at the first of the year to bid out, and it'll be fully permitted just as the senator said the requirement.
For phase 1?
We are on that road.
Second.
For the second one, for phase 1 and 2?
Both phases, all the way to Dartmouth, will be designed, and it'll all be, we're already got draft applications for all the permitting.
That's wonderful.
So that
I would think then we should, from my experience, this is something that we have to include the public in communication as much as possible. We are talking real money, though. It could be significant, but the Title V system's real money too, right? So hiring somebody, a professional that can quantify what the return on this is. It's an investment that the town and everyone's going to make. What the return on that investment is going to be, and educating everyone and informing everyone and giving everybody an opportunity to voice their opinions and to hear for themselves. And so people are going to be, at the end of the day, they're going to be interested in their own water, okay? What's it going to mean for my house? You know, how much is it going to cost me? And then I will decide whether or not I will support it. And being able to help people make that decision by what's it going to cost for other alternatives? So sooner or later, you're going to have to do something, right? And what are the other alternatives going to cost? And in the meantime, with all these high-cost nitrogen-reducing systems that are being mandated, it's really going to get expensive.
We'll have every neighborhood with moon heaps all along Route 6 if we don't do it. So, Jerry?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up two items that are sort of interrelated, I think, with the sewer water project that I think we have to bear in mind. And I don't know, you know, where the money comes from or how much money would be involved. But one is the aspect of rezoning. A lot of that stuff along Route 6, once we get the water and sewer, the zoning that we have today isn't really going to work. And I believe the planning board's already working on starting that, but that's going to also take planning and time. And then the other aspect is, I don't know what the status is, maybe you folks do, and that is the most recent status of trying to calm the traffic, safety issues along Route 6. We've been dealing with that for many years. And I suspect that's going to result in some kind of physical changes to the roadway itself. And I guess my concern is that we don't get to the point where the sewer and water takes off, and now all of a sudden we start redesigning the roadway to calm the traffic and so forth, and have us start tearing up roads again. And so anyway, I just want to toss that into the mix. Do we have an active, ongoing project at the moment, or projects, to do the safety and the recalming of the traffic, like they're trying to do in Dartmouth, and we've been trying to do for years here. Remember that, Steve, long ago. So anyway, I just think they kind of have to go hand in hand, time-wise. I'm talking about money-wise, that's another whole thing, but.
Well, bike and pedestrian has worked
one.
out some with Serpent, and it's kind of like this, except on a smaller scale, where they've given us some ideas and the phases and whatnot. But yeah, that'll keep rolling too. That was the whole idea of this committee, is trying to put everything together. Have, like Mike said, you got to get it out to the public. Have businesses here geared for one thing, so they don't have to sit through half a night at a meeting, and then have the forum reach out to the public. We're all on different committees to bring it in. Jim's been coming, so yeah, we're definitely going to have to reach out while we have the roads ripped.
Is there an active project going on at all right now about either of those two?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I don't know the status,
That's what I'm.
but DOT, District 5, they are looking at safety, because State Road is going to need a major rehab. They ground it a few years ago. They planed
Right,
it down to
milled
try
it
to
down.
help.
Resurface.
Yeah, so, but sooner or later, it's going to need a major resurfacing.
Yeah.
That will include bike and pedestrian access, include proper sidewalks, and safety concerns.
Right. I was under the impression that they also, as part of all of that, wanted to try to slow the traffic down, which of course could be a benefit to the businesses and so forth along that stretch too.
Right.
And I haven't heard any more. Now, years ago, we had the Route 6 Safety Task Force. Steve chaired it, I was on it and so forth, and we tried to do some stuff. We worked with Mass Highway at the time, and we got a few things accomplished, but Mass Highway was very resistant to do some of the other things. So I don't know where that stands.
We can find out. We can try to find
Yeah,
out.
I mean, it is still a concern Jerry brought up 20 years ago, is people don't see the medians. when it's dark out, so.
Yeah.
All simple things like that could come out with reflective now, but you gotta follow state rules and codes. so.
Yeah, I tried to get them just put a little bit of paint
Yeah.
on the curb, they wouldn't do that.
All right, let me make sure it's done.
You do it yourself.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mary.
B2B had a presentation by Serpent about a year ago on this very issue, the safety of Route 6, and asked for a lot of input, traffic calming, bikes, pedestrians and all. And I never heard the result of that study that they
We
did.
probably have it. It's on the Serpent page, I believe.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but
Jim, do you know if
That's-
Jim, do you remember if it's on the other results?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
okay.
And from my understanding of what's going on, they reached out to us, I don't know, maybe a year
So,
ago.
the mic, yeah.
Oh, sorry, yeah, Jim, I should have said.
Sorry. They reached out to the town, and we had a public meeting, I think, on this whole issue of what Route 6 is going to be. But then, the issue that I have is then they go away, they make a decision, and then they come back to us with a decision instead of a give and take on what they want to do, because it really is, should be. We have the Serpent study from 2013, I think, or 5, that had the different sections of Route 6, what each of them should be. The western section should be commercial, or is. The middle section is mixed use, and the further section is a village. And the way that Route 6 exists in those 3 different areas should be different. There should be sidewalks, there should be, parking along the street in this intersection, and bicycle paths now. And those kind of things are being decided somewhere else without our input, without our further input. It should be a give and take, and we don't have it.
Pam hasn't helped us a lot in the past. I don't know if she's tired in or not, but I tried to reach out to her. She gave us a lot of good insight. Anybody else on the committee, Jim?
Just, I'm meeting with the JTPG, the Joint Transportation Planning Group, next Wednesday, so I can get an update on the Route 6. I know it's in the very preliminary stages. They're looking more conceptual right now, but it's on their radar. They're looking to redo Route 6 at some point. And that's a big cost of this whole project, so we need to coordinate with them, because if we can get them to do the road work, and we do the infrastructure work, it's going to be considerable savings to us and them in the long run. So.
Yeah, and the utilities, everything's got to get together.
Our present planning is to have the sewer and water beat the road project. Okay, so that we would get that right in the ground. And the benefit of doing that is that we're not going to have them rebuild the streets and then we tear them up.
Tear them up, right.
So avoiding that kind of lack of coordination. But a really primary benefit, if they are about to do a project a few years behind us, and we can get the sewer and water in, it changes what the requirements are for the patch. And this is a road that in lots of places has a bituminous concrete surface over a concrete pavement.
Yeah, it's concrete.
And patching, their requirements would be, well, if you put it in one lane or the other, rebuild that whole lane, as opposed to, we're going to do a temporary patch, and then when you do the upgrade on the highway, you rebuild the whole road.
Properly.
That's how we're looking to work on coordination.
Okay. And just for the folks at home, the website we were talking about is serped.org, SRPEDD.org, if you want to look for the stats and the Route 6 projects and whatnot. All right, anything else to add before we let them escape? Anything from the public?
I'd like to just say one
Go ahead.
Again, what Mike said about having a shovel-ready project, I think we should start calling this, not calling it phases, and calling the design is just a design. We're gonna have it in February, so we get the trunk line for Route 6 complete to Dartmouth, and then we just start calling them for the work contracts. So we can look for those 3 breaks, call them contract 1, contract 2, contract 3, and then we can try to find a way to fund each of those.
Yeah,
I think it'd be less confusing.
We've still got to negotiate the projected sewerage, if you will, into Fall River. Supposedly there was a cap years ago, which we have to negotiate, so there's some fun ahead. All right.
Is there infrastructure in Fall River we're going to have to upgrade?
the size of thing?
I think on the final build-out, so we're looking Route 6 right now, we should be pretty close, but there is some, the force main along Montine Street might need to be upgraded. There's some additional work long-term on, I want to say East Warren Street.
Does it go, so it goes Martine Street, does it go north?
And then it goes north on Eastern Avenue.
So it goes under the bridge?
Yes,
It goes under the overpass?
Yes.
Does it go up Brayton? No?
it does not go up
Up
Brayton,
Brayton,
no.
okay. Okay.
All right, again, appreciate you coming out. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for all you do, and thanks for the $1 million. We appreciate
Uh,
it. Thanks, Mike. We're all looking for money. Everybody forgets he already got us a big chunk.
Yeah,
Appreciate it. Thank you.
thanks a lot. Thank you.
All right. I'll rotate it around. Let's get Jason up here. I'd like to get the speakers up first.
Yes, good idea.
All right. Jason, you want to come up? Yeah, absolutely. I put on the agenda just so we had an idea about people from town that are looking to open businesses. I know Jason's got a mobile fitness thing, and I know he'd like to get a facility, and I was also talking about places that could help us, hopefully at the end of the trunk where we need some water, flushing out or whatever, if you will. If he's gonna have a gym with lots of showers and everything, he'd use a good amount of water and hopefully help the end of that line where we need some flow. Jason, why don't you just introduce yourself and say what you got now and what your dream is?
Yeah, so my name's Jason Tripp. I lived in Westport, Mass. From 1980 to 2022. That time, 2002, sorry, and that time I went to Florida for 15 years. When I went to Florida, I fell in love with fitness. Got into a gym as a cleaner and worked my way up from just a cleaner to personal trainer, then manager, district manager, area manager, and then vice president of a very prominent health club now in our country called Crunch Fitness when they were just started. And as you know, there's Crunch Fitness in Fall River. Over these years, I had the blessing to open over 50 health clubs. So my job was to really go into a facility, train and develop the staff, create an infrastructure that helped the community grow, and make sure that the club was profitable, successful, but doing the right things. I think that one of the reasons why I had a lot of success in Florida was just basically because I cared about all the members that were there, and made sure that, I know that fitness has changed my life. I had some health scares in 2015, had an open heart surgery, and without fitness, it would have been a really dark place, So now post-COVID, one of the things that I'd like to share is retail and fitness are the two highest volume traffic foot places in the country right now. So they're drawing a lot of revenue. The South Coast Market Basket Plaza has 38% of the revenue that goes in there is from Rhode Island, and it's in Fall River. So I see a lot of business, coming to different areas. We don't have a health club in Westport. There's nowhere to go. So I started 6 months ago, Freedom Mobile Fitness, and I do a lot of in-home training. So my dream is to build a health club where I grew up. I'm back here now since 2016 full-time as a resident, and I still have a lot of the same friends that I went to school with, and as we get older, obviously there's nothing more important than our health. Our health is our wealth, right? So post-COVID also, with mental health problems at the peak, fitness is the #1 way to deal with it, other than some other means of medication and things like that. So if I am blessed enough to be able to have a gym in Westport, it's definitely something that will be successful for sure. I've done the numbers, and they look good, and I can go into that in more detail if you guys have some questions about that. Most of my career was in Florida, but I also opened some gyms in Chicago and the Iowa area also.
Yeah, I don't think, unless somebody wants, I don't think we have to go that deep into the finance. I probably have you, I also chair economic development, and Maury's vice chair. So we might have you in again on that down the line. Okay. But I just wanted the committee and the public to know that what's out there. A lot of people want to have a health club. It's probably second to wanting fast food in town, huh, Maury, from what they're saying. But yeah, we definitely need a health club.
So your bottom line is that water and sewer would help you build the right health club.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you really can't, provide the services that we would need to do that, not just, you know, showers, but other amenities also. Sure.
Yeah, whirlpools and saunas and all that.
Yeah, definitely saunas, that's great for your health, all that stuff, yep.
Okay,
Absolutely.
All right, anybody else have anything?
no, that's
All right.
good.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you,
We got the
gentlemen.
word out there. We
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
All right. You want to get into the mission statement, or you want to go to the other? If you want to.
Well, it's up to you, you're the chair, but
Oh, that's fine.
I think that, can't we just dispose of these
Yes,
first three
that's
things?
what I wanted to make sure you were ready to do. That's
So
all.
this morning meeting, I just put it on there because you know, Bob McCarthy was not sworn in at the last meeting. We thought you had as a new member, what we don't. So we can pretty much jump over that one.
Yeah, we weren't sure of Mr. Holsworth.
Okay.
Apologize for that confusion.
We wish we had you, but.
So basically, I'm just filling in for Bob while he's incapacitated.
Okay.
Apologize for that confusion.
No problem. All right, they got the minutes?
The minutes, yeah,
Has everybody
I've
had a chance to see them?
I've emailed them out twice, so.
Has everybody had a chance to see them?
Yes.
All right, if anybody wants to move them?
I move that we accept the minutes of the meeting of August 18th.
Okay, BD moves them?
Second that.
Oh, Jerry. GC? Is it GC or JC, Jerry? J.
Well, when it's Jerry, otherwise it's Gerald with a G.
Okay. All right, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody against? There you go, that's unanimous. Okay, moving on, upcoming meetings and dates. I don't know if everybody has like the first week in November. I know November's a busy month. You got Veterans Day, we've got voting November 8th. So after like the first week, it's probably gonna get busy for people. Does anybody have the second open? The Tuesday, the second?
So Wednesday, we've been meeting on Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday, the third. Wednesday,
Well,
the
now,
third.
that's October.
Yeah, the year for good over. Jim, can I come in? I know, I will be out of town on the third, I'm scheduled to be. What day that is. So when's the second, Thursday?
Second is Wednesday.
Second is Wednesday. Does Wednesday work?
It works for me.
Yeah, we don't have circuit till the end of the month. Wednesday, the second work for everybody?
Yes.
Okay, let's plan on that. Wednesday, the second.
11 to 22, okay, great.
And why don't we just wait till the next meeting, make sure everybody's agenda, if we schedule too far out, I end up getting calls and stuff. Okay, so we'll schedule the next one at the next meeting, this way everybody, books are up to date. Hopefully COVID stuff stays down. All right, let's get back to the regular agenda. All right, business ideas was Jason.
So-
All right, mission statement.
So Bob Daler proposed a rather short mission statement, and I am proposing a longer one, a multifaceted one, so.
All right, so we kind of let everybody air everything out the first meeting. We did not have a clear mission statement. Jim gave us a bunch of ideas, and Bob and Maury kind of summed up where I was coming from on this committee. We wanted to be,
I talked to all three of you.
yeah, so we want, you know, we'll just read it out, it'll be easier so everybody can follow us along. So, Bob, do you want to summarize what you see and your idea?
Sure. Let me just talk about the philosophy for a second before the mission statement.
That's right.
And this is a big project, and it has potential benefits. Economic development, environmental water quality, providing safe drinking water and adequate sanitation for small lot homes. It enhances the value of people's property. People that have these small lots that can't conform with Title V. Now now that they would have water and sewer connections, their value would increase. So it has those benefits. Because it has benefits, and it also, we are resisting a draft change in Title V, which DEP wants to require within 5 years that every septic system in the town would have a nitrogen reducing system. And their enforcement action would be like it is in Title V now. When you sell your home, you got to have a system that's nitrogen reducing. Most of these small lots up on Route 6 can't possibly do that. And they would have to do the best they can, but in round numbers, each of those hits in those pockets would be $25,000, $30,000. That's one of the risks. So, in my mind, the project has benefits. And therefore, it's worth doing. Okay, so that's the mindset I have. There are people who say, you know, we can't afford to do 28 million. And it's been my experience in working in these kinds of issues and working these kinds of issues in lots of places in the world, that good projects die, not because nobody could find the money. They die because there isn't advocacy for the point. There isn't a leader, there isn't someone who has the energy to drive the project. I'm not, this isn't a statement about me having that energy. It's a statement of, is there collective willpower in the town to do this? Does the town want to do this? And if the town wants to do this, then I think the task is, the first task is not finding the money. The first task is there a collective will to do this? If there is, we'll find the money. There's millions now, you know, and it's the trick of cobbling it together so not only do we know the price of the project, we know the cost of things, and we can figure out how do we cobble together different grants and loans and everything to make the local share something that people can bear. And we've looked at that, and we've looked at betterment schemes. So the risk, if we don't do it, is someone's going to get hit with a $30 million upgrade, or it'll come out of the deal. They go to sell their house, and the buyer says, "I'm not buying this house because you know I got to spend $30,000 to upgrade the septic system." So it comes out of the deal. So if you were going to make $50,000 on net to you, you know, now it's $20,000. So that's the risk if we don't do it. That's the risk that the people who live along Route 6 or all of us face. So I vote, since I think this is worth, then, so that's sort of where I'm coming from. I'm coming from, is this worth doing? Okay, either yes or no. If it's worth doing, now let's find the money. And then it's like, well, what is this committee doing? What's our job? I know we're advisory to the Board of Selectmen, but what is it we're trying to do? And I think we should be that advocate that the project needs. I think that's the role that the selectmen should assign to us. And so I wrote a mission statement that said, the mission of the Infrastructure Oversight Committee is to analyze how the town could implement water and sewer service for the citizens of North Westport and to support and advocate for that implementation. So that's what I think we should be doing is figuring out how to do it. And there have been, in our initial meeting, there were comments that said, you know, this is a waste of time because this project is dead in the water because we don't have, you know, $28 million. And that's really, from my standpoint, that's the wrong attitude. The attitude we should have, the project is really dead in the water if the citizens don't want to do it. This is the citizens had a chance to design the sewer some time ago, 20 years ago, and they voted not to do that. So this is the second bite of the apple, and we should be if we believe that it's worth doing, then we should be the advocates for this. So that's what I hope this committee is doing.
Yeah. And you know, I agree, that's part of the way Maury wrote it up. especially with us talking and whatnot. Yes, we should be supporting the project, but to be honest, you know, we have a person here last meeting, he's not here tonight, so I don't want to dig too far into the person, but yeah, that's all it was we can't afford it, we can't afford it. And I gotta agree with Bob on that point. We need to do more advocating, not just saying we can't do it, or else it's not gonna get done. But I'd rather it was at the table and we address it now, and not stand there at town meeting with one person screaming we can't do it. We could already say, we've hashed this out, we're gonna talk about it at public forums, just like we did with Route 6. And get everybody there, say, listen, this is what you get, kind of like what we do at our meetings. This is what we need. What are the public, how do you feel? You're gonna spend this money and we'll get a better sense of the people. There's plenty of votes at the FinCom, whatever, 6-2, 7-1, that fly through at town meeting. So, yeah, there are gonna people that only.
And so I can see the money coming together for the first phase, the $7.5 million. That is coming together right now as we speak. But Senator Roberts has a different concept. Let's do the whole thing. You know, maybe there are 3 different contracts, like you say, but, you know, we should not look at it as just phase 1. We should do the whole thing. Now, in talking to, you know, Jim, you said, let's get phase 1 done. We can do it. The money's coming. We can do it, and focus on that. But, you know, Senator Roberts really introduced a different concept today. It's like, do the whole thing, go for the whole thing, the whole pot of money.
Well, what I think he's
So
saying.
I'm just interested in, you know, what you all might say to that.
All right, what I think he's saying is, let's get the whole design. We're gonna do the whole thing. We wanna put it into contract, so that's how we're gonna, okay, we got enough money to do contract 1, that's going. Well, we're looking to continue. Hopefully we get the money by the time contract 1's through, and it might just flow right into each other.
And it really, if we have, the thinking should be, the money comes in appropriated years. So, we actually know what that is. So, the mass, about $50 billion, about $43 billion went into, in two $43 billion contributions nationally, went into the sewer and water funds. So, the trillions of dollars. There's $43 billion in the bill, and then the Infrastructure and Jobs Act, which followed it, another $50 billion. So, of the first November 15, 2021, of that first bill act, $43 billion, about $1.2 billion of that flowed into Massachusetts for water and sewer into the state revolving act. So nationally 43, the state is sitting on $1.2 billion. So this is, you fish when they're biting, now there's money. So, and in round numbers, there's 109, and this is Massachusetts. DEP's got, the state revolving fund, last year was 198 million, next year is going to be 220 million, the next year 245, the next year 258 in the final year. So this is the money that's available. So if we and we've got a grant application out now for the first contract. If the town, if we gather the votes to do this, then we chase the first phase. We've got a grant application in now. We go to town meeting. They say yes or no to the grant. We go to town meeting in the spring for the first piece, the $7.5 million. We've all got the designs. Next year, when there's another 220 million, we chase the next phase of the project, and then next year we chase that. So we look at every year chasing grants, chasing loans, putting together as big a project as we can, but we tackle them in each next successive years. And if we If we were really thinking in the long term, we would say, well, let's sewer all of that whole North District, not just the Route 6, and let's reach down into the streets and let's do all of that, and maybe we're undertaking a $50 million project over 15 years. And every year, we have a street, we know what streets, you know when your water's coming, you know when your sewer's coming, and every year we go back in a long-term program of, we're going to finally solve this problem, protect the river, allow jobs to be built, allow affordable housing to be built. And it's not like, I mean, this is really a public investment to generate, you know, security for the town and also to protect our residents. Not only their water and not only, you know, I mean, it really is to protect the real estate values or enhance the real estate values of the properties that they own.
Yeah.
I can't believe you write the notes like an engineer, Bob. Jeepers crow.
I got
Yeah, and one thing I'd like to add regarding the financing, the more we do have to beg the state and federal for, the more projects they're gonna wanna try to do. So we definitely need public investment into this too. I totally agree with you. Because even our housing on Route 6 across from the plaza now, that's a lottery system that Westport is not even involved in.
Yep.
So we'd love to be able to have Westport invest in this so we could have a little more control. All right, go ahead with your mission statement. Did you modify it? Or?
So my mission statement really incorporates Bob's comment as well as Steve's comment and Jim's comment. And that is, it's longer. The mission statement of the IOC is multifaceted. First, we must analyze how the town could implement water and sewer service for the businesses and residents of North Westport. Second, we must get more people involved and advocate for its implementation. Third, we need to help select a project manager and monitor his or her implementation of the project. Fourth, we must build a pathway for the IOC to eventually evolve into the Westport Water and Sewer Commission. Finally, as the creation of the Westport Select Board, we must report to it as needed on the progress of the project and make recommendations for board action when appropriate.
So that's
Typo.
Yeah. That's kind of what I envision when we put this together, to work our way to a water and sewer board, not to have us forever, for us to get the initial together, push for the project, and then hopefully move on to a water and sewer commission where we have a board that may be elected or appointed, whatever it might be. But that's the way I saw it. So, go ahead, Jerry.
I would just like to suggest that we implement, put both of these in, and I think it would be very easily done by just eliminating the first sentence of Maury's thing there and just tag the whole thing on the rest of Bob's. And it would work out very well.
You get that word multifaceted out of there. Yeah, okay.
Well, and it shows the whole thing, yeah.
So scratch multifaceted.
Yeah, okay, so I'll just, yep, good point, just put them together.
All right, but everybody, well, not everybody.
Because
Jerry,
the first one is more general, and the second part gets into a little bit more of the specifics.
So Bob's first sentence going down there, okay, and then analyze how the town could implement water.
Yeah, and then first we must analyze and...
Yeah, I agree with that, and I don't want to take anything away from Bob. The planning, the two Jims, Bob, and you know, in the planning department have done an incredible job on this. That's the only reason we can go forward. You know, so you see anything with that, Bob?
No, I think that's an excellent idea. If we,
so this way we all understand, and the town will understand our mission and what it was about. I totally agree. It's good to have the statement. Jim, you see anything that needs to be modified?
No, I think it's there. I think the first part is like the goals, and the second part is the objectives to reach that goal.
Yeah.
So
I agree. And you know, again, I want a committee where the business people can come in and not waste half the night waiting, and we can focus on the project. Okay. So anybody want to move it as presented?
I move that we adopt Maury's draft recommendations with the substitution, the first sentence as Jerry had recommended.
Okay.
I'll second.
Maury, you understand that?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's moved by Bob, second by Jerry. Any other discussion on this? Did you have something?
I'll second.
Okay, second.
I'd like to just
No,
make
Jerry seconding it?
Jerry, did you?
No, he's
Joe.
second before I did.
Joe Emerald. Go ahead.
I'm in full agreement with both Murray and Bob. I'd just like to make one note on what Bob had mentioned about the DEP
Okay.
and what the possible,
Well,
what, as being an advocate for the sewer and what possibly could happen to us, it's already happened in the Route 6. The Board of Health did that to us.
Right.
And there's a sunset law, and in 2 years, they're gonna start knocking on doors. They can do it a little bit different than the state. I mean, the state's talking about having to go to town meeting and so forth.
Yeah.
The Board of Health already did it, and there's sales being done on Route 6 where houses, the amount being put in escrow for the septic and is $50,000. That's happening right now.
If we
So
make,
being an advocate for the sewer,
Right.
those people need to know that that's what's happening to them already.
all right, that would be kind of a sub thing with Board of Health, but that's, you know, we can get that out there, certainly. All right, any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? That's unanimous. Okay, our next agenda item is summary of funding. Maury, you have
So I don't know how much you want to go into this because we've already gone into it a lot, but
And Bob just touched base on what's available. so.
yeah. And so I'll just pass this out.
While Maury's doing that, I just want to point out, there is one typo.
You know, I'm sorry, what?
There is one typo in.
I know,
it
there is,
says
I
make
know.
recommend for board action,
recommendation,
so
yeah.
we'll fix
I've
that
got
up.
that.
Thanks.
And so I did this really after the last meeting because there were all kinds of numbers floating around and I was trying to make sense of the numbers. And I'm new to this whole project over the last couple of years. Obviously, people associated with the planning board are way ahead of me, but I just got kind of confused. But, you know, as just to summarize what's here, is that we do have, you know, the design and engineering nearly complete. We're almost shovel ready. And for the first project, for the first phase, 1A, we are putting together the monies. I mean, we might get something from Mass Works, which is a grant, not a loan. And then there are other monies left over from the earmark that Senator Rogers got. And he alluded to the fact that there's another, you know, bucket of money that we could tap that could be coming next year. So I don't think we really have to go into too much detail, but I just wanted to collect all the issues here. And then there's that infrastructure fund that, you know, I thought it was, you know, it was 45 or 51 million, I forget what the number was, but that was just passed this year. We haven't even included any of that in it yet, so anyhow, those are my notes on funding to date.
Okay, any questions on that? He's making copies for the audience, you guys will have an idea what we're talking about. Okay. Summary of funding. Project manager hire. Is that a general discussion, or did we find out anything new on that yet?
I don't have anything, although I do know that there's money from Senator Roderick's $1 million earmark to fund a project manager.
I think you wanted to
And
that to that.
Yes.
I think it's very necessary because this thing is very complex.
Absolutely.
And Bob Daler could be our project manager, but I'm not sure you want
He
to
wants to
work
relax sometime.
full-time for the town. And
So Bob, what are you thinking about? You want a letter to the selectmen that it needs, or what are you thinking?
I'm in favor of having a project manager.
yeah.
Now, you know, we have a very good engineering consultant.
Yeah.
And all of the money, we're not looking for the money to do the design. We have the money, it's all committed, the people are under contract, we've already done that. So we've taken, and none of that came out of the taxpayer's pocket. This is all federal money, we're using federal monies to go chase federal monies. So this is all the ARPA funds that came in. We got, through Jim Hartnett, we got a grant, it's a grant money, or it was ARPA fund monies that the selectmen appropriated to do this job. Half of the state's ARPA money has not been yet committed. So the state is sitting on a big chunk of money that's not flowing into the state revolving fund. And really the trick is not around an engineering consultant to manage the design. It's how can we position ourselves to cobble together all of the money from the different buckets of money that are available so we can do this thing? And then, what's the sequence of that? When do we go out? How do we work at the finance committee to get a program together to do this? That's the real art in getting this done. And when we need someone with that kind of planning, not physical planning, and not the design, but putting together all the pieces to actually do it. And then, if we've got monies coming in from all these different buckets, who manages that? That because the federal and state monies don't come without something attached to them. That is, you're going to track the money, someone's going to track the payments, where does all that go, all of that stuff. And having a manager that can help Jim, because he's, that once you get beyond the volunteers and once you get beyond the executive people in the town, the Board of Selectmen, the entire capabilities of the town is one person deep. It's that person right there. So he's, getting someone to support him in, if we cobble together all of these monies in different buckets, how is it arranged? How is it tracked? How do we get through the audits? All of that stuff. Where are these buckets? How do we pursue them? How do we be successful? And then, once we're successful, who manages all of that?
So what do we need for like an RFP?
Well, just one thing. You sent out a list of several names. I don't know, Manny, you're interested in this. You sent it by email a few weeks ago, and I did not bring that list with me. Do you have your list with you?
I don't have the email, but I have...
Jim actually asked me if he had to bring anything. I told him we were all set, my bad.
So a couple of these names were actually given to me by Bob early in the process, last January.
And we've actually actually interviewed people.
Yes,
you
kind
have.
of informally, yes, just over the phone to see if
And
they're
Jim,
still
I know
interested.
you have. Have they interviewed your person?
I don't think so, but
Okay.
both Jim and Bob know Leroy over at the Tiverton Wastewater District. And he may be, I don't know if he would be interested, but I think you might even use his office as do some of this stuff, because they're set up to do it.
So Jim, do you want us to interview people, or they're known to you? What role should we play?
So when we say interview, I've spoken to them. I haven't really interviewed them in detail to find out what their qualifications are, but they're interested. I think it should be, I would suggest a couple of us sit down and talk with them and see if what they can bring to the table for us. And then maybe come back to the full committee.
What salary range are we looking at?
I don't know. It depends how many hours they put in, and we'd be kind of leaning on them to tell us what they think would be involved.
It would be less than six figures, wouldn't it?
Yes, I would think so, and I would think that would be over a couple of years. But again, any of these things can expand, right? So you can get a project manager on board that gets more into the financing and supervising the project, but they could also, handle meetings. They could also do public input, get the public involved, meet with businesses. I mean, these things can, depending on what the group wants.
And do you envision part-time or full-time?
Part-time.
Part-time.
Yeah. Okay. But again, that can change, and depending on how quickly this project moves and how complicated it gets. You want somebody that has the capability of putting more time in if it's needed.
And timing, do you think, once the engineering from Phase 1C is finished, is that the right time, like January, February, March, the first quarter next year? Or earlier?
I think...
Place before that?
I think, if you did it on a contract basis, I I would bring a manager on board, and it may be a firm. There are big construction management firms that have financial management capabilities, and I've suggested one, and we've talked to them. So, you know, to do it on a contract basis, and the front end work is, you know, you look at what we're doing now, and are we on the right track, and then, you know, we track all the money. We've got a fabulous state house contacts, both of whom are residents, and we had very positive feedback from the congressional delegation. We've met with every congressperson's representative. We've met with them here in town. So, you know, I think it's having someone look over the shoulders. Okay, well, what stones didn't you overturn right now? And then, you know, as the project gets to be real and we start to put out things out to bid and everything, you know, they would pick up a bigger and bigger role when there's really something to manage.
Well, not only that, too, we want to know what phase and who we got to contact in the state, like Manny's brought up. We don't want to get this thing rolling, and the state says you got a 3-month process or a 6-month process to look over storm drains, which is brought up for. So, yeah, we definitely need somebody to set us in the right direction. Is there anybody else that wants to sit with them to talk with these people, or with these projective people? Is there anybody else? Maury would like to.
I would.
All right, and Bob obviously is going. We just can't have a quorum, so anybody besides Maury want to before we get it together? All right, so Maury will represent, and Maury's good at letting us know what goes on along with Bob.
Yep.
So why don't we plan as a subcommittee? Were you raising your hand before? I'm sorry about that, I didn't catch you. All right, so that'll be like a subcommittee side thing that you can meet with them. The board's aware that you're going to be looking into that.
Steve?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to just clarify, based on the discussion that you're having, my concern is that we said there's lots of grants. They're not going to just simply fall from the sky and sit in our lap. In the past, from what I can recall and experience of the town, is that most of the grants that we've sought have come either by Jim's efforts or people before him, the planning board, and sometimes volunteers and volunteer committees. And I don't think we can leave it to that type of a format for this kind of thing, because there's lots of grants and lots of sources and lots of work to put these together. Now, I don't know if you're envisioning a project manager to do this, but if so, I think that should be clearly stated, not just to manage, but to seek this stuff, okay?
Yeah,
I want to be very clear on...
Yeah, we're looking for an all-around person experienced in road project and infrastructure project that know the inner workings that are going to get us in the right tracks. We want to keep this moving, like you said. We've got the right people in Boston. Yeah. We don't, like I just mentioned a minute ago, we don't want to find out there should have been a form filled out 6 months ago, and it stops everything. We need experience. So does everybody agree we need a paid person on board?
Who does this manager work
I think
with
your concern is substantiating what we're doing.
Jim Potney. He'd be reporting to the town administrator who, and who would report to the planning board and the board of select.
Because there could be some very major breakdowns in communication if we don't have a central person.
Yeah, if once you guys meet with the person, if they could just, give us a rough draft of what's expected, I think you're getting the drift of what everybody wants. And then we'll take it from there. Expected, obviously the money's big, and then the expected services, kind of like an RFP.
And Mr. Chairman, now that we've got a fully staffed planning department with a planner and assistant planner, that Jim has some backup, that he hasn't had, and in which you can do grant management. For instance, this year we have, under this EPA stormwater MS4 permit, Amy, the assistant planner, actually got that report filed working with our consultants. So, we've taken the step to build some capacity in the town to actually support the administration. And, you know, if we have a manager that's sort of steering this effort, you know, we've got some abilities to actually pursue this stuff.
What I intentionally did not mention about the new planner being a part of this, because if we're going to have a project manager who's going to be the seeker of grants and so forth, then it should be clear that's the person. But yes, I would love to involve the new planner in this process, but we have to be clear on whose responsibility is which, and you know.
Well, they're gonna have their hands full too, because the planning has to go along with this, or else it could go, you know, crazy on Route 6. And within the, like I mentioned earlier, we're already in the density housing zone that Jim and I just got briefed the other day with Serpent. We're not named yet being Westport, but they think in the next year or two we're gonna fall into the equation.
I think the planning board is going to have a lot on their plate
We
with
will.
this.
And it'll be before the Board of Selectmen to hire a consultant to work with the rezoning, and so, you know, there's another consultant that has to be managed in the planning department.
Yeah. All right, so let's see if you guys can meet with that person and come up with a summary for our November meeting, because after our November meeting, everybody's gonna start going into holiday phase, and we don't wanna lose momentum. If we can try to get that out there. Go ahead.
So again, Bob, I asked you the question, when do you think, or Jim too, when should this person or firm come on board?
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why don't you guys get
You mean
the
yesterday?
Yeah, bring it to us November 2nd.
Okay, okay,
The Board of
okay.
Selectmen's gonna have to vote on spending the money. So we're gonna send the recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, they'll vote on it.
So in October, the three of us are going to meet with prospective. Okay.
Like I said, trust me, once
Do
we
we have
get
to
past
set-
the first week in November,
Do we
everybody
have to
starts.
set that up as a subcommittee by vote?
No, not really, because
No.
it's not a quorum or anything. You guys
Yeah,
are just
okay.
gonna do that.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody understood that? We're looking for a paid professional to assist in this project. Okay, everybody understand? Next is additional new business. Anything to add? Okay,
No.
All right, and then public input. Anybody want to add anything for the record or have any questions? Go ahead, Jim.
I think that this is great.
You gotta identify yourself.
Jim Whiten,
Thank you.
Chair of the Planning Board. I think it's great going down this road and what you're doing. I would just say that on your mission statement, the one thing that you mentioned that this committee might turn into the Water and Sewer Commission
Down the line.
or
yeah.
down the line.
Yeah. Not necessarily us, but
But
advice.
I don't want you to make the supposition that this is going to be a municipal system. It might turn out to be a water district,
Right.
water and sewer district.
Sorry, it might be, turn out to be a what?
What a district.
Water and sewer
Oh, sure,
district.
okay.
So that it might be independent of the town government.
Yeah.
So, you know, it might morph into something else. And, you know, I think that if you think long-term, you think that getting the sewer done or getting the Route 6 part of the sewer done is just the beginning. Because as soon as you start getting customers, you got to figure out, okay, how do we service these customers?
We don't have a deed.
Who's going to answer the phone?
Yep.
Those kind of
Totally
things.
agree. And you know, hopefully we can move on from that, and we're not gonna figure out all that logistics. This is to get it rolling and keep it moving and try to get, like Bob's original statement said, is to get public input. Let's get this thing rolling. So nothing else to add? All right, if nobody has anything to add, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Nobody wants to leave?
So moved.
All right. Bob, is that a second?
Yeah, to kick me on the table.
Anybody else?
Second.
All right, second.
Who's the second?
I think
Joe?
Jerry beat him. All in favor?
Aye.
Nobody against, adjourn? Thank you. All right, thanks for coming, guys. We're trying to